right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be looking at page 20 in your quarter 2 booklet. Your paper is going to look slightly a little bit different than mine. I just thought I needed a little extra room to be able to show you what I needed to show you. So on page 20, we are given an equation in example 3 to be able to graph, and the equation that's given to us is 4x plus 5y is equal to 20. And we're presented with two options on how to graph. Both are perfectly fine options. We just need to look at what this particular problem lends itself to best. And it might perhaps be fine to do it either way. It really just depends on the numbers that are present in the problem. So option 1 here is probably the option we are most familiar with. It is to rewrite the equation into slope-intercept form, solve it for y, and then plot the intercept and plot the slope and graph from there. So option 1 is really probably the one we're the most familiar with at this point. We've been doing it this year, we've been doing it last year, very familiar with slope-intercept form. Option 2 is a little bit more recent, and it has to do with finding the x and the y intercepts. And so we're going to look at both of these options with this problem and be able to show you that they get the exact same line, the exact same answer, and then talk about what it might be best or not best to use these options. Okay, so let's go with option number 2 first. The one that we're talking about most recently are our x and y intercepts. So in the first step here, it says find the x-intercept by substituting 0 in for y. So if I do that, I would say that this is 4x plus 5 times 0 equals 20. And so that means that this would be gone, and we would be left with 4x is equal to 20, and if we divide that, x will equal 5. What that tells us is that we have a point on our graph where x is 5, and remember right up here we let y equal 0. And so this is our x-intercept at the point 5, 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 0, right there. If we go to step 2, step 2 says find the y-intercept by substituting 0 in for x. Okay, so if we do that, we would have our original equation, 4x plus 5y equals 20. We'll put 0 in for x. That'll make 4 times 0 is gone. We have 5y equals 20, which would mean y will equal 4. So think about what we did there. To write our ordered pair, we put 0 in for x, and now we have 4 for our y. And so now this is our y-intercept. So we would go to 0, 4. Okay, so by doing that method, we have found the y-intercept to be 0, 4, and then the x-intercept to be 5, 0. 2 points are the minimum number of points that we need to be able to make a line. And so our next thing then would be to take and plot the x and y-intercept. We've already done that. And then connect that to form a line. Oops, that is a really big one. Let me go back and get a different line for that. How about this one? Yeah, that's better. Try to line it up as good as I possibly could there. Okay. So paper and pencil, you're using a ruler. It's going to be a little easier than me trying to get this exactly straight on here on the iPad. with this program that I'm working with. So now let's take a look at, so this was, we went and did this doing option 2. That was being able to find our x and y intercept. Let's go back and look at that same original equation. And let's talk about how we've done this problem in the past. In the past, we would just take 4x plus 5y equals 20. And even as far back as chapter 2, we practiced solving for y. At that point, we didn't call it putting it into slope-intercept form. We just said solve for y, which would mean this positive 4x moves over to the other side and becomes a negative 4x. Positive 20 drops down. And then we have to divide everything by 5. Okay, so let's look at what we have found by doing so. If we look at this, do you see that right here is my y-intercept at the point 0, 4? And isn't that the same place or the same coordinate that we found for our y-intercept? So 0, 4 is still right here on our graph. Now, our slope that we found was a negative 4/5, down 4, right 5. Well, if from our y-intercept right here, we take and we count down 4 and to the right 5, look at the point that we'll be at. We'll be at the x-intercept, which is another point on the line. So for this particular problem, either option 1 or option 2 are good options. There's no benefit in doing it one way versus the other way. Maybe just your own preference on how to do the problem. What is nice about option 1 is that you can continue that pattern and find multiple points then that are on the line. Whereas with option 2, you're simply just finding the x and the y intercept. Now, let's take a look at the next problem on your paper. And let's think about what might be better, option 1 or option 2. So just, you're looking at still on your paper, but just as, so that I have it up here, option 1 is to put it into slope-intercept form and to graph that way. And then option 2 is the x and the y intercepts, find those 2 points. And so the equation that's given to us this time is 2x minus 3y is equal to 9. And our goal is just to graph it. If we look at this, most times students will immediately just always kind of default to option 1. It goes just to the, hey, we've done this the longest, we're the most familiar with it. So let's see if that would work. 2x minus 3y equals 9. If I take that over, that positive 2x would turn into a negative 2x. And then if I divide everything by negative 3, I'm going to have y is equal to a positive 2/3 x minus 3. So if I go to graph that, my y-intercept is at negative 3. And my slope is up 2 and to the right 3. Oops. See, what's nice about this is that we can put multiple points by just continuing the pattern by going up 2 and to the right 3. We could even we can even reverse that and go down 2 and to the left 3, and that would find points over here in quadrant 3. Okay, before I draw the line, I want us to go ahead and look at x and y intercepts so that we can see if we get the same x and y intercept. So if I look at 2x minus 3y is equal to 9, and I go to find the y-intercept. So I let x equal 0. It doesn't matter which one you find first, the x or the y-intercept. And so x is 0. And that leaves me with negative 3y equals 9, which would be y would equal negative 3. And so that's the ordered pair. My x was 0, and my y is negative 3. Well, we can confirm that this is the y-intercept by looking over here also at the y-intercept, and then also right here at the y-intercept. So up to this point, it seems as if both methods are going to be fine. If we then take and say now we're going to find the x-intercept, I'm going to let x, so for x when I let y equal 0, this is gone. I'm going to have 2x equals 9. And what happens here is I get x is equal to 9 halves or 4.5. And usually that tells me that if I end up with an x or a y-intercept that is not an integer, and I'm graphing this on paper and pencil, in which I have to estimate where to put the points, I probably don't want to use this option, because I have to then come over and say 1, 2, 3, 4, and kind of estimate at 4.5 here. Now you can see how it fits in, but it kind of fits in because I have all the other points of option 1 that it's lining up with. If I'm only going to place 2 points, the x and the y-intercept, then I want to make sure that they are placed really accurately. And being able with paper and pencil to estimate where a non-integer is a little bit difficult. So in this particular problem option 1 would probably be the best way to go to put this into slope-intercept form. Both result in the same line. I could draw that line in there now. I think I can. There we go. It's just that with that option 1 this time we can have a little bit more accuracy.